So I have a question for you. As a dungeon master, was I right? Or was I right? You know, my fiat decision as a dungeon master was correct. Or are my player characters right that I did something that was inappropriate? Here we go. I'll explain what I did and you can decide. All right. So I have done the first Dungeons and Dragons end credit scene. I'm claiming it, right? Tell me now if you think there's some proof somewhere else that this has already been done by someone else, let me know, but I think I'm the first to do it. All right, so the way we run our sessions is we get together on a Sunday night. 2 dungeon masters run. Each one has a 2-hour session, right? So the first dungeon master ran their game and finished their episode from 6 to 8 p.m. I started at 8 p.m. and ran until 10 p.m. Standard, current, modern Dungeons and Dragons session, ran for 2 hours, ended the session, right? And at the end of the session, what happens is, there's always, I have one player who packs up and he's out the door within 5 minutes, right? Then I have a couple other people who will ask questions saying, hey, I leveled this game, can I do this? Or can I get this item? Or can I, they'll have questions about their character, so I'll answer those. And then there's always, hey, let's talk about Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power versus, House of the Dragon. Or let's talk about the latest, is Andor any good, right? It's just about 5-10 minutes. So I was inspired to do this because, one, Marvel has had end credit scenes for a long time, right? But I was inspired to do this. I was shocked. The Woman King. I'm not kidding. Like a story about a woman, an African warrior woman who became a queen of her nation, a historical tale, had like a shawarma ending scene, just like Avengers did it. Like, I think Avengers was the first end credit scene that Marvel did. And it was just like, what? Like, there's an end credit scene in Woman King? I was shocked. And people had already left and missed it because they didn't expect there to be an end credit scene. So I was like, I'm going to surprise my players with an end credit scene, right? So basically we were all done. And then exactly at the 15-minute point, I had 4 players and 2 had left, but 2 were still there. And I said, and then my friend is like, well, Andor really isn't going anywhere. Like, he's literally fighting bodyguards. Like, are these people even Imperial? And I was like, here is the end credit scene for our current session. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, you guys have stuck around and you're now granted this end credit scene. So you guys found the pirate's cave, and you were able to find all of the treasure that was in the primary cove. But what you realize is you see back farther, there's an area of specific blackness, right? And essentially and they're like, well, we're going to investigate. And they sit down and they don't even have their character sheets out, right? And they're like, hey, we want to go and check that back area. So we go back into the back area. They've already got 1,200 gold pieces, and they got 2 rare magic items from the area. They go back further, and they find 2. They go back further into this dark crevice, which actually opens into a pocket dimension that had been created by a wizard for the pirates, which opened up into one small, simple wooden room, which there were no doors or walls to. They could only enter and exit through the cove, and they each found 1 additional rare magic item, right? So they're like, woo! And I was like, end of end credit scene, right? And so everything, and they were like, this is awesome. I hope we have more of these end credit scenes. And I was like, yeah, it was really fun. I liked it. The other 2 players were furious. They're like, hey, we should be able to leave whenever we want to leave. We shouldn't be able to worry that you have an end credit scene, right? And the other 2 player characters were bent. Like, they were like, we were punished for not sticking around. And I was like, it's not that you were punished for not sticking around. It was that these other people, because they weren't in a rush and they were kind of like just spinning down, they got this extra special blessing, just like in a Marvel movie or in a Woman King movie, right? And they're like, this is not cool, man, and this needs to stop. And I was like, okay, I've heard what you have to say. I'll take it to the internet. What are your thoughts? Do you think this was right of me to have the first Dungeons & Dragons end credit scene? Or do you agree that this is inappropriate and that this should not happen? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Who was right? Who was wrong? Me, the Dungeon Master, or my bent players? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider like, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.